I started watercolor a year ago. I've always been interested in artistic mediums, but I never thought of watercolor. I needed a hobby, but I also needed something to kind of give me that creative outlet. And so I called my husband one morning and I said, listen, we're gonna go to Michael's and I'm gonna pick up this watercolor set, and it just took off. I have always been inspired by nature, and so I just started looking at these photos that inspired me, and I would just take that as some inspiration and just roll with it. And I just found myself in here late at night creating. Shortly after that, I was able to start selling my work at a local coffee shop, and I just haven't looked back. In my childhood, I was constantly drawn towards being outside and climbing trees and discovering what was out there. I think it's important for us to step out, and I think that nature is the perfect place to do that. As much as we can shut off our phones at home, it's so much better, I think, for us as a family, or for me personally, to have that time of much needed reflection, or to be able to have something that's bigger than us around us. That's why we also bought our home surrounded by the grandfather oaks. I am drawn to specific trees or plants, specifically Norfolk pines. I have one in my front yard. A neighbor of mine wanted me to cut it down, and I said, no, I'm not cutting it down. It was the first thing I fell in love with. It wasn't even necessarily the house when we bought it. It was us driving up to the driveway and seeing the Norfolk pine. It just felt like home. We went out to Connecticut, and it was fall, and we pressed some leaves. So I have the book that I have of pressed leaves that inspires me for fall watercolors. The palettes, looking in nature is just a palette in and of itself. Well, I went to Italy when I was 16, and I fell in love with food. I fell in love with herbs specifically and how we use them. I knew when I started doing watercolors, I want to do hand-painted herbs because they represent a lot of life to me, of family. When we're sharing a meal, I feel like we're connected and that we're a family. My friend wanted me to create these lavender watercolors for her, and she put them on labels for chapsticks, and she created signs in her home. And that's just so cool to see those projects come to life in somebody else's home, that they feel just as much connected to it as I do. With my personal journey and with watercolor, I think being outside or having that headspace or the research into nature is really the main focus for me.